Kendrick Lamar doesn't travel loudly. No jet photos, no airport chaos, no breadcrumbs to follow. He simply disappears and then reappears when it matters. That absence isn't accidental. It's a discipline, and once you notice it, his entire movement strategy becomes impossible to ignore. The absence is the point, why you rarely see him moving. With Kendrick Lamar, the first giveaway isn't what you see, it's what you don't. No airport selfies, no jet photos, no just landed updates at 3 a.m. In an era where celebrities document every coffee run like it's a press release, Kendrick's travel life feels strangely empty. And that emptiness is intentional. For Kendrick, movement is not part of the show. It's something to be minimized, not marketed. If people don't know where you are, they can't interrupt you. Fans don't camp outside hotels. Media can't spin half stories. The focus stays where he wants it, on the work, not the whereabouts. There's an old industry saying that fits him perfectly. The less visible the artist, the louder the art. Kendrick lives by that rule. He doesn't tease arrivals or turn travel into content. He lets silence do the filtering. And that silence isn't passive, it's protective. It creates space to think, write, and reset without noise leaking in from the outside world. Once you understand that absence is the strategy, everything else about how he travels starts to make sense. Because for Kendrick, staying unseen isn't hiding, it's discipline. Why he moves like a civilian, not a superstar. One of the strangest things about how Kendrick Lamar travels is how intentionally unremarkable it is. No oversized entourage, no loud arrivals, no visual cues screaming global icon entering the building. If you passed him in a terminal or hotel corridor, there's a real chance you wouldn't register what just happened until later. That's not accidental. Kendrick understands something most celebrities learn too late. Attention changes behavior. The moment people clock who you are, everything slows down. Security tightens. Curiosity spikes. Conversations shift. So he removes the trigger. Dress down. Keep it quiet. Move normally. There are multiple anecdotes from industry people who've traveled near him and only realized it afterward. Same flight, same airport, no disruption. One person described it as watching someone opt out of celebrity in real time. This isn't about pretending to be regular. It's about staying functional. Big arrivals create expectations, and expectations demand energy. Kendrick would rather spend that energy writing, rehearsing, or thinking than managing a spectacle he never asked for. And this civilian-style movement feeds directly into his next advantage. Because when you don't draw attention while moving, you get to choose where attention lands, which is especially important when we talk about where he stays. 3. The hotel pattern nobody tracks, because there barely is one. When Kendrick Lamar travels, the hotel choice is almost intentionally boring. And that's the point. You won't find a predictable trail of 5-star lobbies or signature suites. Instead, he gravitates toward places that prioritize quiet over clout. Low-key boutique hotels, private residences, or secured accommodations with minimal foot traffic. There's a long-running anecdote from a tour stop where fans waited outside the obvious luxury hotel, convinced he'd be there. He wasn't. No decoys, no misdirection theatrics. He simply chose not to play the guessing game at all. When there's no pattern, there's nothing to track. For Kendrick, luxury isn't marble floors or lobby buzz. It's sleep without interruption. It's doors that stay closed. It's staff who don't treat your presence like content. The fewer people who know where you're resting, the better the rest actually is. That choice has a ripple effect. No crowds mean no delays. No delays mean routines stay intact. And when routines stay intact, creative energy doesn't get drained by logistics. Which matters, because once travel stops stealing attention, it can start supporting the work, not competing with it. Touring taught him discipline, not chaos. If touring turned some artists into adrenaline addicts, it turned Kendrick Lamar into a minimalist. Early on, he learned that constant motion can either sharpen your focus or completely drain it, and the difference comes down to structure. So instead of chasing spontaneity, he built discipline into how he moves. People who've worked around his tours describe the rhythm as calm, almost boring. Travel windows are tight but predictable. Rest isn't optional. Transitions are planned to reduce friction, not create excitement. There's no last-minute scrambling, no dramatic reroutes just to switch it up. Everything exists to protect mental energy. One crew member once said traveling with Kendrick feels less like a tour and more like a routine you don't break. Same timing, same expectations, same quiet efficiency. That consistency matters because it removes decision fatigue. When you don't have to think about how you're moving, you can think about why you're moving. That's why Kendrick can disappear for long stretches and come back fully formed. Travel doesn't interrupt the creative process, it stabilizes it. Movement becomes maintenance, not stimulation. And once movement stops demanding attention, something powerful happens. Silence stops feeling empty. It starts feeling productive. Why he avoids noise cycles and moves between them. Here's a subtle pattern most people miss about Kendrick Lamar. He doesn't travel during peak noise. When social media is loud, headlines are spinning, and everyone's chasing reactions, Kendrick goes quiet or moves in the gaps between those moments. It's deliberate timing, not disappearance. Noise cycles drain focus. They pull attention outward. Travel during hype turns every movement into a story, and Kendrick has never wanted motion to become the message. So he waits. He moves when the volume drops. He arrives when expectations aren't already screaming for him to perform. An industry exec once put it perfectly. He doesn't show up early or late. He shows up when it matters. That applies to releases, appearances, and travel alike. By avoiding peak visibility windows, he avoids accidental narratives. No spotted headlines. No speculation loops. No momentum hijacked by chatter. The payoff is control. When Kendrick finally steps back into view, it feels intentional, grounded, and earned, because nothing leaked beforehand to dilute the moment. And once you start traveling around silence instead of hype, the system locks in. Because now movement isn't reactive, it's purposeful, which leads to the final piece of his travel philosophy. What all this restraint is actually protecting. The philosophy behind it all, movement as a tool, not a flex. At its core, how Kendrick Lamar travels comes down to philosophy, not logistics. He doesn't treat movement as a status symbol. It's not content. It's not part of the brand rollout. It's a neutral tool, something to be used efficiently, quietly, and only when necessary. That mindset separates him from most artists at his level. Where others amplify travel to reinforce identity, Kendrick minimizes it to protect clarity. Every unnecessary interaction, every crowded arrival, every moment drains a little mental bandwidth, so he removes them. The result is a kind of creative insulation. People close to his process often say Kendrick is extremely deliberate about where his attention goes. Travel that demands attention is wasteful. Travel that preserves it is valuable. That's why his movements feel almost invisible until suddenly they're not, because the work is ready. There's a quiet irony here. In a culture obsessed with access and visibility, Kendrick gains power by refusing both. He doesn't disappear to be mysterious, he disappears to stay focused. And that's what all the silence is really buying him. Space. Space to think deeply. Space to refine ideas. Space to arrive only when he has something worth saying. Which is why, when he finally does show up, it never feels random. It feels necessary. Why this protects the art, not the image. By now, it's clear this system isn't about hiding. It's about preservation. For Kendrick Lamar, quiet travel isn't a branding trick. It's a way to protect the work from being diluted before it's ready. When artists become constantly visible, the image starts to outrun the art. Kendrick makes sure that never happens. Think about it. If fans always know where you are, they start reacting before you've said anything. Speculation fills the gap. Expectations harden. By staying unseen, Kendrick keeps the narrative clean. When he appears, it's because there's something to deliver, not something to manage. This is why his returns feel heavy. Albums feel deliberate. Performances feel grounded. There's no exhaustion from being overexposed on the road. Travel hasn't drained the message before it arrives. A lot of celebrities optimize for relevance. Kendrick optimizes for resonance. One fades fast, the other lasts. And that's the final distinction. His travel habits don't build mystique for attention's sake. They build distance between noise and meaning. Distance gives perspective. Perspective sharpens the work. So when Kendrick finally steps back into the spotlight, it never feels like a check-in or a flex. It feels like a statement. Kendrick Lamar doesn't chase attention, he avoids it. And that choice changes everything. If this breakdown shifted how you see fame, movement, and control, hit like, subscribe, and comment who you want exposed next. Because the